Okay guys, we're going to walk through creating our dice in OnShape for the first time. So a few things to notice that in terms of our space here. Down the edge here allows us to be able to see the parts we've got. So at the moment we've got our panes, the top, front and right. If I right click with my mouse on the settings I've got, I can sort of rotate it around to be able to see them from different angles. I can choose this guy to go isometric, which then gives me back to my resetted space. Along the top here, you can see all of my tools. If you zoom in, so I'm holding Command plus and going in, you can see I lose some of the space as we go. So generally I like to try and have it a little bit down to about that 100% so I can see the bits up the top that I'm available. So the first thing I'm going to do is be able to sort of check that I can go around and move that view around, so I can go to the front and see those pieces as we go. Zooming in or out with the mouse, you can see I can rotate it around, but for this one I'm going to start on the top. So I'm going to hide my other two for the moment, so you can see if I go back to my isometric view, I've hidden the other views. The first thing we always need to start with is a sketch. I click on that, you can see the first thing it's asking us to do is we need to actually draw on something. So this plane we're going to choose to draw on the top plane. I can either click it over here or I can go on and just click somewhere on there, and we can see that the sketch plane has been created over here. Now we should have already done this, and I'm jumping around a little bit, but if we go into our preferences, into my account, and you go to preferences, we want to make sure that we are in millimeters, and degree are probably the key ones. Kilogram for the unit, Pascal for these, and joule down here. So the key ones is making sure we got millimeters and degree and kilogram. The rest of them we can tidy up as they go. Save those, and then we're going to return back to our document. So if you haven't got those set up accurately, it's going to be a little bit confusing when we go to create stuff. So I've got my sketch. Notice how it's not highlighted and I don't have that extra box. So I'm not in my sketch and I don't have the tools up there. So I can either double click on him or I go to edit. That ends up being the same thing. If I tick on that, it disappears off. So I've on my sketch, I'm going to hide that top plane, so I've just got my sketch. It's always easier to work directly down, so I'm going to click on top, which then brings me back in. So I'm now able to start drawing. Now I'm going to start by just drawing from the origin. Anytime we draw, we always want to make sure we have it locked in somewhere. So I'm going to start by just doing 4 lines there. Once it's enclosed, you see it's been highlighted and shows me that I've got a closed shape. That's a really important thing to recognize. Notice how if I hover on that, we see that little coincident. So if I hover over each of those, it shows me what I have in terms of the constraints on that artifact, on that line. So you can see that one is parallel. So if I try and change that now, it won't allow me to change that. So if I select him now, I can actually delete that, which then allows me to reorganize it again. So I do actually want to lock this in. I'm going to use some of my things. So if I start up here, I'm going to go vertical on this guy, and then I'm going to go horizontal on this one. I'm then going to go perpendicular for that one to that one. So now you'll see if I hover over things, you can see we've got those different constraints. The last one I'm going to use is actually going to be parallel. So I'm going to say that one wants to be parallel to that one. And now I've got my square or my rectangle that can only be at right angles to each other, because these are vertical, this is parallel to that, and that one's horizontal. So we can use those constraints, and then I'm going to add on my dimension to lock this in. So I'm going to go up here for D, so my dimension, and I'm going to select this guy, click it, and I'm going to go 100. So now if I zoom out, we can see that side is 100. So if I try and move that now, it allows me to move up and down. So the last constraint I'm going to put on here is going to be equal. So now that has to be equal to that, And notice how all of my lines have gone black. So that has basically now locked in that sketch. It can't move, and that is a good thing. So that is now my outside shell. Now, I could have done that a lot quicker. I'm going to show you that on the next sketch. But now I have that ready to go. I'm going to add my dots for my circle. So I'm going to go center point, and I'm going to add in 5 circles. The last one, I'm going to make him 15 millimeters. Now, the easiest way to be able to select all these and make them the same is I'm just going to go click them all through. So see how orange, they're all selected. And if I go up to equal, they all change there. So that's now happy days. Now to get these in line, I'm going to do a little bit of construction lines. So I'm going to create my line, and I'm going to select this guy over here, so construction, or shortcut is Q. So if I select that, it basically gives me some dotted lines to be able to draw on. So I've got those there. I'm going to drop that so it goes on to half. Just make sure it's halfway. There it is. Then we go through. So I want to be able to have that guy should be at the midpoint. And then this guy, if he's not already, wants to be at that midpoint. So now you can see my sketch lines are all locked in. So what I can start doing now is adding some relationships to these. So if I drag this guy on, that highlights. Now he can only stay on that line, which is good. This guy is going to go on and lock into that one. But what I want to be able to do is see how it goes to that square. That shows me, if I zoom in a little bit, that it's at the midpoint of that line. So if we find that again, where'd he go? There it is. Let that go, and now he's locked in. I can't move that any further. So that's good. So from here, I'm going to then select my coincident, grab the center of that circle, and go to the middle line of that. And that's not where I wanted to go. What I should be able to do is get him on that one, and now he's locked into the center of that shape. So from here, I'm going to actually use my symmetry now, symmetric. So from here, I'm going to say I want that one and that one to be symmetrical with that. So now that's locked in. I can say I want that one and that one to be symmetrical with that. And then lucky last, that one and that one to be symmetrical there. So now you can see my whole sketch is locked in and tight. So my next step now is I'm going to finish that sketch. I want to be able to extrude that. So now I'm going to give it some depth. So I'm going to select extrude, and I'm going to select that face. And notice now we've got that shape going through. So for this one here, I'm actually going to, because we're going to do this a little bit differently, I want to select all of those so I get a solid cube. So I'm going to say I want that to be 100 millimeters. So you can now see I've got a nice square, or a cube if you want to be really specific. We're going to tick on that. So now I have a cube, and that sketch is hidden. But what I want to do now is I'm going to go here, and for our sketch, I'm going to actually cut that through. So I'm going to go to that extrude again, and I'm going to select those 5 holes. And I'm just going to go, let's go 5 millimeters in. We're adding, in this case we want to remove it. So we're cutting that out, change that direction, and now you can see it's cutting in. So if I tick now, you can see we've got our holes cut out. So we're going to go through and create the rest of them. So this is my side 5. Okay, so I'm now going to go create a new sketch and then do the next one. So I'm going to go opposite over here. I can hide that sketch, and I'm going to create a new sketch on this side. So this guy is going to be a whole lot easier, because all I need to do with this one is I need a circle in the middle. So before I can draw my circle, I know he needs to be 15, and I'm going to do my construction line so I can get him smack bang in the center. So you go to my construction, draw that through, and find the center, drop that through, so he's square, there it is, and then I can grab that circle and put him in the middle. So that is all I need for that sketch. I'm going to rename that sketch. So this is going to be side 1. Tick that. I finished that sketch, and now I'm going to extrude him out. I'm going to go the other direction, and I want to remove. And I'm going my 5mm and tick. So I've got that one there. So I've got my dice size ready to go. I'm going to then come over here and do the next one. So let's do maybe the 4 and, oh, that should be 2, shouldn't it? Because they should all equal 7. So I'm going to edit that side. I'm going to remove that, and I want him up in the middle over there. And I'm going to add one more construction line, because I'm just going to, instead of trying to measure him, I'm going to add my construction line from corner to corner, and I'm going to mirror on that one. So I'm going to come back over here to mirror. So I can choose the mirror line first. I want to mirror on that one, and I want to mirror him across. There's my 2 lines. I'm going to change that extrude. So double click on that so I can select the other one to include. So now I've got my 5 and 2. I'm going to go 4 and 3, and then 6 and 1 on the last 2. So I'm going to go my new sketch, choose that one, square it up, and we've got our 4 to go through here. So I'm going to go my construction lines again, drop those through. So I'm going to go from there to there, there. So construction lines are very handy. So that's now ready to go. Add my circle. I know he wants to be 15, and I'm going to then move him through so he's locked in there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make a pattern. So if I know that he's halfway between, let's have a look at how this goes. So I want a, let's go circular pattern in this case. So I'm going to choose that. I'm going to change the point of where it's going to be going from, and then I want 4 of those. So now we can see around that point I've got my 4 circles. I now can click off that. They are locked in. So same deal, I'm going to finish that sketch, rename him, so that's going to be my side 4. And I can extrude that, change it to the remove, down to 5mm, and then choose the cut so I want to do. It's always nice to be able to check that it's doing what it wants to. Tick that, and I've got my space through here. Okay, so that is looking good. I'm going to add my next one on as well. So let's do that next. So I'm going to jump around to this side. I'm going to new sketch on this side, and I'm going to add my line for construction. There he is, or shortcut for Q. Square that up, and I'm going to go this way to there. Add my line in the middle. Oh, and I'll probably, so if I've done that wrong and I don't want that to be a construction line, I can select him and then just click that again. So now he's a solid line, so that's good. But now I need 2 lines either side of him. So let's add in those other construction lines. So I'm going to go halfway between here to the middle point up there, which gives me my next point. And I can, if I'm still at it, add the construction line from there through to there. So then I can do one more circle, and then one more circle, and I make those guys symmetric. So that guy to there. So now they are symmetric, and I'm going to make sure that they are both equal. So I do one to there, and now they're all locked in. So we're happy days here. I'm now going to finish that sketch, rename him to side 3, and I'm going to extrude him. I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to then choose 1, 2, 3, and we're just going to go 5 mils. So now I've got those pieces ready to go, and then I've just got the 1 and 6 to finish off. So that's looking pretty good. I've got all of my sides ready to go. What I might do for this last one, I'm going to show you a few other bits and pieces for this one, so I can do something a little bit different. So if I go on and I'm going to create a sketch on this one, we're going to create this, and we're going to use cubes for the cutouts instead. So I'm going to go and create a rectangle. I'm going to grab him there, so I'm going to make it 15 wide, and I'm going to make that, let's say 70 long. So I've got that ready to go. I want to then make a pattern of those guys across. So I'm going to make sure, so I'm going to dimension this guy. Let's grab him from there. I want him 15 from the edge, and I'm going to create a pattern. So I can go a linear pattern this time. So I'm going to choose all of these guys, and then it asks me how far along I want it. So I probably want to be, let's say 30 along. So it's got a 15 gap between each of them, tick, and I want to go back into that sketch. If I change that down to 10, how does that look? 12.5, and I should have that nicely centered. But because I've got, there it is. All right, so I've got my lines. I can adjust those if I need to. Notice how it's given me, I can still move them up and down this way. So I'm going to go my dimension from here to here, and that's going to be 12.52. So that's now set up, ready to go. I'm going to add a couple lines. Well, let's go a line there, and I'm going to create a pattern with that one as well. So I can go 12.5. I actually want that one 15, don't I? So adjust that, and I'm going to make another pattern with that one, and I'm going to ask it to go down. So I can make that one only, and make this one, let's go, if it goes 4, how does that look? I want that to be 15, and go back the other way. So we want it to be minus 15. And then we're looking good. Tick on that. Oh, and I want to go back into my sketch, and he's sent it the wrong way again. Where is that? So he's there, 25 across. Those lines I want to be going the other way. This guy. So there it is. Okay, so I got my 15, and I'm just going to drop that to 75. So we're able to tweak and adjust as we go through. What you notice now is I've got all these extra lines that I don't need. So what I'm going to add in, and we're going to play with this now, is we're going to go and use the trim tool. So what this allows us to do is cut anything that is in between what we need. So any of those things in between points, I can remove them. And I could do the same thing across here. So notice though, when I start removing things, it loses some of those dimensions. So we've got to be careful on what we pull apart so that they don't end up getting messed up. So we could add in a couple of parallels to help line it up so that they stay the same. Add some equals, but what you can see here is we can use patterns and play a little bit with that. The other thing I wanted to show is if we add an arc, we haven't played with any arcs yet. I can add an arc between 2 points, make it line up with something, and then I could always trim away to be able to use those as well. So it gives me the opportunity to be able to start playing a little bit with some of these things as we go. The one that I would encourage you to be really careful with is splines. It can be quite challenging to be able to get locked in and tied up well. They're quite hard to work with. But I'm going to remove some of these so that I've only got 6 on this side. So I'm going to get rid of that center box. And I know this is quite different to the last one, but I just want to be able to show a couple of the other tools that we have with our sketch. I'm going to remove those. And there is my cutouts. So hopefully we've got a really nice little almost finished dice that is good to go. I could always, there's a few things I can do if I'm working in 3D, but for what we need to do for the sketch, if we can extrude and be able to cut and draw, if I wanted to, let's say, make this go up, I'm going to do this last one and we're going to bring it out instead. I might do so I'm going to make one last sketch for our number 1. I'm going to add in a polygon. So if I hover there, find the middle piece, it gives me the idea to go through there, find the middle piece, and it will find me the center there as well. So I'm going to drop him there. Let's say I'm just going to make him 8-sided, make him 30. And what I can do with this now is I'm going to create a new part that, if we imagine this could be our piece that we're cutting and adding onto the top. So I can make it 3 mil and I'm going to make it new. And I'm going to tick that there. So you can see that now that's 2 different parts, part 1 and part 2 down here. So this is my, that's my dice, rename him. And this is my number 1. Okay, so we can add pieces. So if you imagine how that fits to what we need to do next part, that's all ready to be able to go. So hopefully you've got a dice that looks a little bit like mine and we're ready to go.